Hey guys, so now we'll just create a new function app with a function. So we basically, in order to create any functions, we need to create something that's called a function app. And it's different from AWS because in AWS you just can go and create lambdas, whereas here you have to host lambdas within something that's called a function app. So for this purpose, we'll just create a new group, just called functions RG resource group. Our function name will be function app 1, 2, 3. Looks like it's taken already, so I'm just going to go for May 23. Function app underscore May 23. Do you want to deploy container to image? So we'll just deploy code. We use .NET version 6, region East US. Operating system for the C#, we go for .NET. The hosting plan, and there is different types of plans, so we're going to go for serverless option. In terms of storage, we will need to specify a storage account. So here we're just creating new storage because lambdas have to be functions needs to be stored somewhere. Enable public access is not needed. Sorry, we will need actually public access because we'll try to use an HTTP trigger for that. There is no network injection available in serverless, so we will have to leave it off. Application insights, we'll just leave it as it is. GitHub, we won't be using GitHub in this short demo. Tags, it's always good to put a tag here by whom a resource was created for resources. And we're gonna go and hit the review and create button now. It may take some time, so perfect. So okay, voila, we have already our function app created. We can see here the URL of all the functions, operating system, app service plan, our properties, and some charts and basic metrics such as working set, execution count, and execution units. Features, diagnose problems, deployment center, and so on. And in order to deploy any applications, we have two options. So we can just basically go into functions and create a new function. Or we can go into a Visual Studio, which would be typically a preferred option. And we can just create a basic HTTP trigger, and that's how we're going to use the functions. So I'm going to go into the Visual Studio. I'm just going to hit new project. So it's going to be Azure Function. It will be okay, Azure Functions, perfect. And as a function, we'll call it a basic HTTP triggered function, or maybe fun, because it's going to be fun. It's going to be great fun, guys. Solution, create new solution. Yes, we'll just create a new solution for that. Long-term support.net, because it seems the most, it's because it's a long-term support. And in terms of functions, we have here a number of triggers. We can have a lambda function without a trigger, but for us we'll just use an HTTP trigger. Authorization level. Typically there should be always some sort of an API key. I'm just going to leave it off as it is. We will be able to trigger the function from the portal itself anyway, so I'll show you that later. And this is our function, so we can just basically maybe rename it to a nicer name, which will be, let's say, basic HTTP triggered fun, because it's obviously fun. Yes. At this stage we should be able to run this template, so it's basically a basic template that responds with an empty object, but this is what we need basically, so we can just run it. And it should allow us to trigger it using the standard local host, so 7291 port, and let me just check that, local host 7291 /API basic HTTP triggered fun. Okay, so this is get methods. But it can also allow you to do a post. So for that, I think we'll need a postman. I don't have a postman here, so I think we'll probably skip this. I think, yeah, that's it in terms of creating a function itself. Now what we're going to do is we're trying to publish this basic stuff into Azure. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new profile for publishing. We can just right click on then a function, then we go into publish. We specify a target as Azure. Function app, it's going to be Windows for now. And I have consumption model consumption function app here. I'm going to use okay. At this stage our application should be deployed and should be available here. So if we go here, click refresh, it should show us something. Sorry, this is the publish button. Okay, so we can publish our site. But this is basically a site for all the functions, and we're not really interested in that as such. We are interested in a very specific function, and that is a HTTP triggered. So if we go here into our function app, we should be able to see it in a minute. Yep, here we go. We can now go into testing. And simply get the URL function. So I'm just gonna try to execute from here, and it's working. So now if I add a query and just look into code, name equals ABC. Hello ABC, the HTTP trigger function executed successfully. So we have it published correctly. And I think that's all folks, thanks.